Right, so gods do exist, gods and goddesses. I work with several. One of the first I started working with was Thor from Norse mythology, not to be confused with the Marvel comics. Thor, they're completely different. And the Marvel comics is like loosely based on that being. The Norse mythology is far more accurate from what I've read and experienced. He's one of the first gods that I worked with. I was in a space of learning mediumship and how to work with different energies and wanted to call on a protective being, so I called on Thor. And I'll never forget that I don't think I had seen him yet, but I had felt him around, and I was washing dishes at one of my old houses, looking in the backyard, and actually seeing Mjolnir, the hammer, drop down and hit the ground, and the ground and house shook. Like when it hit, it went poof, and it shook. And he told me I had his hammer, that I would be able to use his hammer to protect myself, and it was like an energetic version of that. So I started using that in a lot of my techniques and working with it and developing ways on how to work with that energy to protect myself and build my grid. And then there were other times, lightning strikes, that sort of thing, where he would validate that he had been present until I worked on my third eye. Once I worked on my third eye and I could see him, I actually had moments where, back when I would drink beer or something, I used to offer beer to him. Beer and meat are great offerings for those gods. And so there was one time just a couple years ago before I stopped, uh, he was in or I was in the apartment, and I grabbed a beer, and before I had even like went to sit down on my recliner, he popped in, and his energy is huge. Um, he popped in and he sat down, and he was like, his butt's on the ground, his knees are, he's sitting with his knees up, type of thing, and energetically drinking from the beer that I had given him, and sat there and talked to him for quite a while. So I've done that in the physical world, just being physically awake and can see him, and, like, sitting there energetically with my third eye and out, kind of out of the corner of your eye, type of thing. And so I've worked with him in that capacity. I've worked with him in dreams. He's come to me and given me messages in dreams. He has been with me in meditations and in moments of great need where I really needed help and protection and guidance. There was one time that I was having a very, very disastrous day. That was I had set the day up to go as easy as possible if the others involved had played along, and it would have been the easiest transition, no problems. I'd be in and out, type of thing. And because of the low vibration and the low consciousness of these people involved on my way to this event, I was being told by my guides, something happened, be prepared, it's not going to go well, this type of thing. And it ended up being far more disastrous than I could ever expect. In that moment, I was sitting in a car, it started raining. I'm not going to go into the details of what it was, but it started raining, and I heard lightning, or not heard lightning, I heard thunder, and then there was lightning, and Thor was immediately there and comforted me and being like, you're protected, I'm here to help, that sort of thing. So he's always been there with me in moments of need. Odin is another one. Odin is more of a recent god that I've worked with, and he has worked with me on essentially bringing me into contact with different people, different beings. He has sent me Hugin and Munin, if I'm pronouncing them right. Those are his ravens. I've worked with them before. I once worked for a month. I had to do energetic work that Odin asked me to do in meditation. I have not seen him around the way I see Thor. Odin always, I know to go to him because I hear his staff, Gungnir. I hear him take his staff and go boom, boom, boom. and I'll hear it like clear as day, like boom, 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 reverberating through this hall. And I immediately know, okay, I need to go sit down and just immediately stop what I'm doing and go meet with him. And he's always in a throne, in a big hall. There's a throne. He's sitting there, uh, older, um, and the ravens are there all the time. Sometimes he's like his the way he looks, it shifts at times. Sometimes he looks stronger. Sometimes he looks weaker. That type of thing. Um, but his personality is never changes. He's very commanding, straight to the point. No time for like I could probably sit and talk to Thor, but if I tried to sit and talk with Odin, Odin would be like, I'm just gonna go do my own thing, type of thing. So the energy I experience with him is very get to the point, let's talk, and be done. Go. Here's your next lesson, or here's your advice, whatever he's coming for. And so I started working with him, and he's helped a bunch. I don't remember where I was going with that, but I have worked with other gods, goddesses. Lady Death is a goddess who I don't often talk about. I should talk about her more and maybe just make a video series about her, because she's an African goddess. She is a goddess of death. She came to me when I was ready to learn more about death and working with the energies of death. She took me to, I would go into a portal when I was learning to open portals and meet my guide there. And when I met her, I was first met my African friend. She lives in the Congo. Her name is Sarai. I would meet with her, and she looked like this witch doctor look. She had like bones with her and things of that nature, and was doing energy work on me until I was ready to experience kind of a tether to their village. And I kept seeing this thing moving around her, this little cloud of black smoke with a white face. And the best description I can give is of No Face from Spirited Away, for those of you familiar with the Miyazaki movie. And looks a little bit different, or it's like a combination of that and the smoke monster from Lost, is typically the way I describe it. So it was like floating around her. I started working with her in the village, astral traveling. Like I learned how to go to the actual village in Africa, astrally experience them, talk to them, and then went in, and there was a skull in a ritual cave. There's an ancient skull that they use, and placed my hand on it and remember like this energy just swooping in, and they're like, you're ready, type of thing, and started talking to Lady Death a lot more. She started taking me into a space where I thought it was her office. What would happen is I'd go into meditation and she'd say, stay within yourself. She didn't want me astrally traveling. So when I met with her and she would come to me, she would be like, okay, let's meet. And then she would be like, stay within yourself. And I'd go inside and into my mind, and I'd be in a library, an office, but it was like a library, maybe like a den or a study, like a warm fire burning, lots of books, leather. We had 2 leather chairs, and she would come in a door, and I thought it was her space. I learned out that it was actually a space inside myself that she was entering for my safety, because vibrationally, when I tried to experience her outside of that space, I wasn't ready for that physical experience of her being right beside me. And it was very terrifying, actually. It could make you it made me physically ill. They let me experience it to some degree so that I knew what it was like. It started making me physically ill, and she's like, this is why you have to learn to work with me in your inside of yourself with safety before you can experience me outside of yourself, so that your vibration has shifted higher and you're used to it. Otherwise, your physical body will have symptoms. So she would come to me, and it was interesting. Her smoke being would come, and it would like touch my third eye, usually with a finger. And she'd touch my third eye, and then boom, we'd be in that space. And so I worked with her and started seeing the different versions of her. She has many different versions, which brought into awareness the truth of a lot of gods that I've learned and just keep on learning. Is that uh, the the likenesses, the names, they are from culture to culture. I call her Lady Death. She gave me another name that I don't use publicly at her request from years ago. But they have names throughout these cultures that are different, but they're the same person. Um, so she's associated with the balance of life and death. And there's an African Orisha. I don't remember her name that applies to her. There's an African Orisha of thunder and lightning who is like basically the kind of the comparison of Thor. Um, but you have Thor, lightning, thunder god, and you have those, I don't know what they're calling Roman and Greek and Asian and all these cultures, but when I started meeting people, it's like they started describing them, and then Lady Death would pop and be like, "That's me," or Thor, or Papa Legba. Papa Legba is a trickster god and works with death a lot, and so it's an awareness that when you're working with gods and goddesses, just because you think you're working with a specific one doesn't mean that somebody working with a god or goddess of a different name isn't working with the same being. They go by different names because different cultures have labeled them differently. So gods and goddesses are real. We're actually over time right now. I just want to say they're real. I have a lot of experience with them. You can find more in my videos and books. If you're liking these videos, please consider supporting me with a spirit art reading at awakenwithwillow.com. I'm grateful for each and every one of you, and I love you all.